Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Brooks, and welcome to another episode of the EmPower Hour brought to you by the EmPower Plant by Facing Brooks. So welcome. I hope everybody had a great, wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm going to go ahead and do the honor that is usually reserved for Rose Caswick, and that is to promote and tell you about our drink of the day. I just got back from what seemed like an interminable vacation in California. It was really long, and we covered a lot. I went with my daughter. I always take a big long trip with her every year, and I enjoy doing that with her. That's part of my self-care, which is what we're talking about today. But for me, since my wine is not here yet, all the cases that I ordered, because I need an adult at my house to sign for it, and I forgot I live alone. Ah, so anyway, I'm gonna be going by all the FedExes and the UPSs picking up my wine for about the next, and we're gonna have it at my, I'm gonna celebrate my birthday this year with California wine. But today, though, we're just gonna have a veve, just do some nice bougie champagne. I hope everybody has a cocktail they can enjoy, but that's what I'm doing today. Just having just a nice little fresh champagne, and of course you can do that with a mocktail. There's a hilarious TikTok Carrie Rome going around about this man who found his daughter in a bubble bath with sparkling, whatever cider, whatever the non-alcoholic, and a thing of orange juice. And she was making her own mimosas because she was so stressed from homeschooling. And then he looks in the trash, and she had already killed off a whole bottle of the cider.
Oh my God.
He was on cider bottle 2, and he's like, I need to be more involved in this child's life. And I'm like, yes, that's an empowered man, y'all. That's an empowered man. So anyway, cheers. Hope everybody has a lovely Thanksgiving.
I'm gonna give a chorus, so cheers.
Listen, y'all, I want to go around the group real quick. We are talking about self-care. We did these polls. We heard what you wanted to talk about. And self-care is hot right now because it used to be selfish, and now it's self-care. COVID changed a lot of the way we look at those sorts of things and how we treat ourselves, and we understand how important our mental, physical health is, and just, what we're doing to contribute to the world. So I'm so excited to have Lisa Davis, joining us today. Lisa, welcome, and just tell us a little bit about what you do and what your passion is, what drives you, because you are one empowered woman.
Thank you, Dana. And I'm so excited to be with you guys today. All of my favorite boss babes at Basic Brooks. And we're getting to chat instead of you guys being in my makeup chair today. So obviously
we still chat then.
That's right. Oh yeah, we do a lot of chatting. That's where it really happens. That's why I love what I do. I get to talk to women all day long. But I am a professional makeup artist. I'm a licensed esthetician. I'm an entrepreneur, of course. I am also a consultant and a regional vice president, Mercedes driver with Arbonne International. And I'm a mom of 4 children. I've got 3 teenagers and 1 4-year-old.
Oh my
I'm married. The little one's the crazy one. Yeah. And then I'm married to my husband, Stafford, and he runs businesses in the Florida area. So he travels full time. He happens to be home this week, but and I have a new boutique in the Market Square area where we do makeup and photography and branding, Mommy and Me, boudoir, headshots. It's basically like an all-in-one, one-stop shop where you can come do everything image. In fact, I do custom spray tans here now as well. And of course, makeup artistry, bridal, airbrush, and then photography. And we're about to expand. So we're going to be expanding into a little bit more of this building pretty soon, and bringing in more, but it's exciting time. Thanks for having me.
Oh, 100%. Thank you for joining us, because that sounds like a full plate. I'm sitting here like I've had my children, and I've started my career, and I've grown this business, but I live alone, and I have a lot of time, and I hang out with dogs a lot. So it's totally different. And when I see somebody like you, what do you call yourself? A mompreneur?
Mompreneur, I guess, is what they call it. I've never referred to myself as that, but yes, that's
I love it. I love it. I want to come back to you and talk a little bit about it, but I want to get a little bit from our panelists real quick, because what do you think of, Lori Finn, our marketing director? What do you think of when you hear self-care, especially post-COVID?
Right. Well, the first thing I think of is the full body self-care. To me, that's not just like, diet and stuff, but it's mental stuff. So it's getting in the bathtub, getting my mind right, and making sure the overall picture is what it needs to do to battle the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you can go out in the world and take all these slings and arrows if you don't have your head game right. And that often is informed by your physical,
Yep.
wellness. If you're feeling unwell, thankfully with all the COVID, if we're doing everything we're supposed to do, we're not getting sick. I haven't been sick in ages,
Yeah.
other than self-inflicted. So I think that's good, but this is the greatest time to practice, mental and physical wellness. Carrie, what is going on with you? What are you thinking when you think of self-care?
I mean, for me, it's always exercise and getting my head cleared by being on the soccer field or playing tennis with my boys or doing a spin class at the gym. That's really what my self-care is. That's it. That's all I have time for, self-care wise, I wish I had, well, and honestly, things like this where I'm talking to my girlfriends or I'm talking to my law partners, it really is really healthy for me to have my girl time and my girl interaction. And I found that more true during COVID than really any other time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree, because this is the time, we never made time for each other. We always said we would. We never got together for those drinks. We never did the things because everything else took our time. So I think COVID is making us all go, listen, we have more time than we think we do. So let's really decide what's important to us and let's make that a priority. So I love that. Kimmy Hogan, welcome back to the EmPower Hour.
Hey.
I was late to this and I appreciate all of your patience. First of all, I want to say that. You notice how I didn't apologize? I just said I appreciated your patience.
I love that.
Women apologize.
Okay.
Taking notes.
So I want to tell you, I appreciate your patience, because I was in the parking lot, half doing my makeup, yes, but also on an intake call. We're personal injury lawyers. Basic Brooks, that's what we do. We help people who are hurt. And believe it or not, with all the traffic on the road being a little bit less, it's not that much less. And think about the people who are driving during COVID and during quarantine. Those are the people who clean your house. Those are the people who plumb your house. Those are the people who do your landscape. So I hope everybody is very kind and very thoughtful and aware of the people who are keeping us going right now. Those are the people who end up in accidents, and they're ones who call us. So I love what I do because I get to help people, and I appreciate the patience of people like you who allow me to do that. So Kimmy, what is going on with you with self-care right now? What's up with your bonsai situation mainly?
So I got into bonsaiing trees because it was something I could do that was very zen and very focused, and that's going well. You're supposed to wait until spring to bonsai, but I just kind of dove in, and so they're all probably going to be dead after this freeze because I left them outside, but we'll see.
You are a terrible bonsaier. It is cold right now.
Really? But
Somebody check our kids.
Kimmy, where are your kids right now? Are they outside?
Where are your children?
Oh, they're out. They're in the chicken coop.
They're contained.
It's so funny. But I'm actually talking about self-care. I'm actually going to Houston this weekend to go see one of my very best friends. And so that's what I was going to say is staying connected to community is a big thing for me. Especially during COVID, it's not as easy. So you got to get a little bit more creative with it. But
well, I will tell you this, I travel a lot and I'm not irresponsible, because I do, I'm in this meeting yesterday and everybody's like, Dana, what are you doing? I'm like, I just came back from California. I'm going to wear a mask in this meeting, please. I'm going to. It's the least I can do. It's nothing, please. But traveling, I think, has turned a lot of people off. But if you do some research into it, air travel especially is pretty safe. But you do have to follow the rules, follow the guidelines. That's all. It's nothing. But I encourage people to do that. This is the time we need to reach out and love each other. I want to get back to Lisa. And I want to talk about self-care, but I also, Lisa, want to talk about self-care in the context of I don't have a bunch of money. I don't have a bunch of time. Is self-care only for privileged people?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
I'm a Tallahassee Oprah lady.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that one, Dana. No, I can speak from being in a place, and you guys can listen to my story at another time. I just did a podcast on how I got here. I have lost everything before.
Tell us.
Everything. I have lost everything. Well, 3 years ago, I was a top income earner with a global company and they went under, and I lost my car. I lost my income. My dad passed away. I had a terrible breakup all within a very short period. And so I had claimed resurgence and back to where I'm, you know, have that career back and everything, and the money's back. But I guess I can speak to that because I've been through that, where when people say to me, oh, I can't afford that, I'm like, totally get it. I understand intimately what that looks like.
But you found a way to get what you need to start a business. See, this is what I want to talk about with Lisa, not just self-care, but self-love, because Lisa had all her eggs in the basket of an employer.
Right.
Potentially maybe a husband. That happens to a lot of us. And if that goes south, which it can do, you can't control other people. What happens to you? So Lisa now is an employer herself. She's an owner. And so I love it. And how did you find the resources to make your dream come true?
Well, you slowly scale, honestly. And self-care happens slowly too, meaning we slowly go, okay, this is what I can afford, so this is what I'm going to do. And that might look like for you a gym membership with childcare. Now, I just had a lady in my chair just a moment ago who had her first child, and she's like, and I don't understand how people like you who have 4 kids make it happen now. And I'm like, you put systems in place, right? And so I said, the first thing you need to do is join a gym with great childcare. So of course I recommended
when my kid was little, I had to. They didn't have childcare, I couldn't go.
Yep. And that's all I could afford at the time. I couldn't afford massage. You know, I couldn't afford to buy organic. I couldn't afford a cleaning lady, but I could afford to spend $100 a month, and it was a stretch, so that I could have 2 hours to myself.
Right.
Because if you have small children, especially, and I do feel like that's the hardest season of life is when you're working full time and you have small kids, because bigger kids take care of themselves a little bit more. You got to have that time to take a shower, you know, blow dry your hair, put a little makeup on, squirt the perfume on that makes you feel pretty, and just take that time. And so that's the way that I protected myself when I had small children and when I didn't have a whole lot of resources. Now, then you reevaluate constantly, you know, as your income grows, because you're taking those risks and scaling, which always is going to be uncomfortable, always. Yeah. When I hired an assistant for the first time, I was like, ugh. But then she frees me up, and that's part of self-care. Going, I'm going to invest in that, even though I can barely afford it at this point, so that I can invest my time in my best area of genius, my income producing activities, because that's where I'm work best. That's where I'm happiest. And that way I'm not doing these things over here that drive me crazy, and I'm protecting my sanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it happens slowly.
And I will tell you this, for the people watching who are wondering, you know, I don't even have the $100. They're going, I don't have it. I would like you to, you know, kind of think outside the box a little bit. Go online, go onto some of these groups. Since COVID started, our law firm, Basic Brooks, we started a Come Back Stronger group headed by our indomitable, fearless, just can't stop for a minute law partner, Jimmy Facing. And Jimmy's just sharing his passion about helping people turn their lives around. And he's made significant changes in people's lives. It's just incredible. We started this EmPower Hour. I just wanted to kind of give women a boost, because COVID is disproportionately affecting women. I know I talk about this like it's a religion of mine, but it is. Anytime there's something to suffer, it's going to be on the back of a woman. And so I think that's a good thing, because we're better able to take it, and we're better able to roll with it. So look for groups. You know, if you don't have money, there are people who will barter with you. You know, like, I'm running around at 3 to 5 in the afternoon. I'll take your kids to soccer. I'll take your kids to ballet, whatever. I'll help you out. Would you do me a solid and pick me up some stuff at the grocery store, whatever? You know, you could just barter. You can work things out. Coaching has blown up since COVID. Have y'all all seen that? You know, therapy, COVID, coaching, online things there's just so many opportunities now. So don't let not having money scare you, because believe it or not, there's so many people in your boat who are struggling with the same things. And if y'all all get your heads together, especially you women, you resourceful women, you're gonna come out of this stronger. You really will. Carrie, what are you thinking about after you hear what Lisa's saying and about self-care? Lisa is so beautiful, but I love that Lisa is on her page, and please follow her, Lisa Davis. She's on Instagram. She's on everything. Please follow her, because she's so inspirational. What I love is she will show a picture of herself just
looking awful.
Yeah.
I don't have makeup. I am tired as hell. She did this cute right when COVID started. She put on a mask, and then she did her makeup on the side of the mask. She's like, you know, just think outside the box, keep your head up, you know, keep your energy up, you know, just think about things. But Carrie, what do you think whenever you try to keep your energy going because you have so many responsibilities. Lori, you do too. Kimmy, my God, I'm so grateful I'm on the other side of that sort of thing sometimes, although I remember the energy of having the children in the house and I love it. But Carrie, what are you thinking about self-care and what are you doing? How are you making time and money for it?
You know, I think for people that are low income or that just don't want to spend the money on it, just go for a walk. It's as simple as that. If you're outside for any more than 20 minutes and you're walking, your endorphins are going to kick in.
Yeah.
You're going to get that good dopamine response and you're outside in the fresh air, and that is self-care, and that's totally free. You can walk anywhere in the city in any of the parks, and it's wonderful to be outside. But you know, Lisa was doing my makeup on Tuesday because I stepped in for you on a TV thing, Dana, and Lisa,
thank you.
best conversation ever about, and this goes to Lisa's point, that time is the best thing that you have and the best thing that you can preserve for yourself. So cut things out, you know, like
Yes.
I won't go, you know, if I go to Target, I give myself a 10-minute time limit to go in and get what I need and get out. I don't go to Target and just walk around for an hour and a half. Now, sometimes that could be.
Now, how does that happen though, Carrie?
No,
Seriously,
that's
well, I
not
don't know.
so
Now, how does one spend 10 minutes in a Target though?
unless
Did you go to therapy? Is it a meditation? Is it a hypnosis? I mean, what did you do?
You have to do that because otherwise it's a time suck, and 2
Yeah.
hours later you've lost your entire afternoon and 200 and then you're stressed out.
Yeah.
So, you know, like Lisa was saying, if you can push things off that you don't really have to do or that really drive you crazy, it's worth it. Even if you have to spend a little bit of money to do that, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. I agree.
And the other point I wanted to make, and I posted something about this on the EmPower Plant Facebook site, and what self-care really is also thinking about who you are and who you want to be and how to be a better person. Forgiving yourself, because you don't want to carry around that burden of punishing yourself for things that you think you've done wrong, but forgive yourself. Be grateful for things. So all those kind of inward emotions that we can have, we need to work on, because that's all self-care too.
Yeah. You know, I just, like I say, I always contrast myself with you all because I'm older and my daughter is older and I have one child, she's out of the home. But I just took a long trip with her. And believe it or not, you still lose your patience with your children. You still just, I don't know. It's like when you take on your child's anxiety, it's so much worse than anything you've ever gone through yourself. And you feel less, you know, able to mitigate it and deal with it. And it's almost like a crushing, paralyzing, horrible thing when your child is hurting or suffering. And they all do, and they never stop. You know, that's why I tell you, I mean, I parent an adult. But do you think that, you know, there's an 18-year-old finish line there? There's not. You've got to care for yourself always. And it's important to remember that. And Lisa, I think that you are so good at that because you've got these older children and then you've got this baby, what I would call a 4-year-old to me is a baby.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so tell me what you do. Do you have a routine? Do you get up every day and do the same thing? Do you spice it up? I mean, how do you take care of you?
Okay, first off, Dana, let me tell you, if they want to follow, it's Image by Lisa. You won't be able to find me, Lisa Davis.
Perfect,
it's Image by Lisa on every platform. So find me there, because I am really passionate about sharing my ways of self-care on those platforms.
Yeah.
So definitely go there, because a lot of it's focused on image, right? Because that's what I do.
Right.
But as far as the systems you're talking about, it's just like goals. I'm all about systems. Goals are great. Saying you're going to get healthy is great. Saying you're going to focus on yourself more is great.
Right.
But what are the systems that you're going to put in place to make that happen? And really, that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah, operationalizing it.
That's right. So I back up from that and I go, okay, what does getting healthy look like? Well, it means that nutritionally, I'm going to have to be there. I'm going to have somebody who either grocery shops or cooks. And how's that all going to happen with everything that we've got going on as women?
Mm-hmm.
And so just as an example, it might look like ordering food from a service instead. And now we're talking about things that do cost a little bit, but remember, when you give the cost and offset that cost to something else, that means you have time that's freed up to work in your IPA, income.
You're exactly right. And I want to say something about it when you're done, but that is so important because you're not spending money, you're investing money.
That's right.
That's
right. Because honestly, it's when you look at the cost, when I look at the cost of my time and energy going to the grocery store to prepare all of these meals for my family, it actually works out to be cheaper for me to order from. And I just order from Organic Lunchbox here in Tallahassee. They bring it to my refrigerator already prepared, and I just have to put it in the oven. So
Right.
those are the types of systems I'm talking about. Or if it's nutrition, that's important to you, because nutrition is a huge focus of mine. That's what I do with people, is I coach them through the 30 days to healthy living.
Okay.
And we talk about meal prepping all the time, that once a week, cook in bulk. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to make
Right.
recipes every day, ladies. Like, let's just grill a bunch of meat and roast a bunch of vegetables and put them, so all of those are like systems. So I'm very systems focused. I do try to be very regulated in what I do every single day. And so when you were saying, do you kind of fly by the seat of your pants, or is it more like scheduled? It's scheduled, because if I don't schedule it, it's never going to happen.
Right.
And you guys know that, because we have so much going on. And so I have a personal trainer that I have an appointment with. Now, that just happened in the last 6 months. I've never had a personal trainer before. But again, it got to the point where I was like, I'm ready to scale in this area, because I know that an expert's going to be able to help me to get a more effective
100%.
workout, which means I have more time to spend in my area of IPA. Again, it's all of those small steps and systems along the way. So
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about, what can I do to offset, to put into place something that's going to help my life. Always back up and to get into those small steps, because again, we can always say we want to do X, Y, Z to take care of ourselves. The last thing I would say is just recognizing when your fuel is running low.
Yes.
Everybody has triggers that they know about themselves. If I'm getting just a little bit bitchy, or a little edgy, or I'm starting to yell at my kids more, I'm like, oop, okay, you
Mama
got
needs
too
a
much
break.
on your plate. That's right.
Mama needs a break.
And if you're getting too stressed out, it means you have too much on your plate. And like Dana said, I do believe and agree with you that the ultimate burden ends up falling back on the woman. Even through the lockdown, it's like, I don't think I saw or heard my husband or any other husband clean a toilet during that time. We couldn't have housekeepers, but who's doing most of the cleaning and the childcare and everything, right? The woman, right? So we have to protect ourselves from that, because we do take on everything either personally or we take on other people's stuff. So that's really important. And then saying no, I would say that's another one.
Yeah.
Like, Carrie and I talked about that when I did her makeup Tuesday, but getting to the place where you can say no without guilt.
Oh.
And you just can't do everything. You've got, and not saying, like you, Dana, you just said, not saying sorry for it. Just, I have plans. So I have had to go, this is my plan. This is my routine. This is my regimen, and I do makeup for some high profile politicians, but if they want an appointment during a time that I'm scheduled to be working out, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm booked, You just have to do that to protect yourself.
Yeah. I think you have to, when you do decide to make self-care a priority, and you should, because that's an investment in yourself, and it's also supporting all the responsibilities you've taken on, some of which you don't deserve, but you've taken them on anyway. So don't you need to be your best self? Yes. So why would self-care be less important than a deposition in our lives, Carrie, Kimmy?
Yeah.
Why would self-care be less important than a meeting with Dana, about marketing, Lori? And she's like, I would do anything rather than have a meeting with Dana.
That's not true. I just do
It
a
is
lot of
true,
self-care
but you're
first.
kind. So I'm starting to see this, because Jimmy and I always think about that as a fun job, and I'm like, it seems like the people who have it don't see it that way, Jimmy.
Nobody else is having fun in this room but us, Jimmy.
Kimmy, where are you on this? Because we live and die by our calendars. Let's be honest. If something's on my calendar, I look at it as a contract. I may need to renegotiate to get out of it, but I look at it as, oh, Dana's going to be there. Whatever it takes, she's going to be there. And I know, Carrie, Kimmy, you feel the same way. Lori, I can't imagine you and Lisa don't. But Kimmy, what are your thoughts on prioritizing self-care?
So it's something that I've recently just started doing, because I have the 4-year-old and the 1-year-old. And so I think ever since I had my first son, I thought all I can do is work and just do my mom's stuff. And that's literally all I had time for. And that's all I did for about 3 years. But after I had Theo, my second boy, I said, I've really got to start balancing so that I can stay sane and I can be efficient when I'm at work. Because nothing makes me more mad than if I'm not being efficient and productive when I'm during my work time. So I love what you're saying, Lisa, about the systems. That is awesome. And I need to work on my system.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come get my makeup done and talk to you about it.
Yeah, I love it. And I will tell you this. One of the things, Lisa, I wanted to talk about when I said this, I said, remind me to do this. Carrie and Kimmy, you remember this woman. She was a lawyer from Atlanta. She was at the Alliance of Women Trial Lawyers in New Orleans. Do you remember that day?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all spoke. This woman had been like an insurance defense lawyer, kind of the opposite of what Kimmy and Carrie and I do. And she was just grinding, billable hour grinding. And God bless the insurance defense lawyer now after COVID, because you used to make up for all that grinding by traveling. That's where you got your money back. And that's not happening anymore. They have to actually sit at a damn desk and produce a document now. And it's just grueling. It's horrible because they don't get paid anywhere near enough to do it. But anyway, we used to be just married to our calendars. And so now I like that we don't have to do that as much. We can pick stuff off the calendars that doesn't belong there anymore. And this woman that we met at this conference, she's from Atlanta, and she wanted to get out of that grind. This is before COVID, obviously. And but she had already had a baby, and she was pregnant with another one. She's got 3 now. And her husband does the grind. He's an insurance defense lawyer. And she said, I'm going to go with the plaintiff side, because I get a cut of what I get for my people. It's not about how many widgets I produce, it's about outcome. And so she thought, I probably can excel in that environment where I don't get counted by production. I get counted by product production. So anyway, she does this, and she starts her firm out of her office with $2,000. She decided to, instead of just working, she put all of her time into developing her business, like Lisa. You know, she's like, I can do what it is I do for a living, or I could develop this business. I need to do both. Most people, when they start a firm, if they start landscaping, they just want to landscape. They don't want to develop their business. When they start a hair salon, they just want to do hair. They don't want to develop their business. When they start a law firm, same thing. So she did this, and so she started buying back her time. And so that's what she called it, buying back her time. So she would pay somebody to watch her children. Then she realized, you know, if they watched my children from 3 till about 7 at night, if they got the groceries, if they made the dinner, they cleaned up after that, my husband and I, who both have very challenging careers, we can come home, we can enjoy our time with our children. We can eat a meal that's already prepared. We can go out and walk with our children, do whatever, do homework with them, give them a bath, put them to bed, and we can have some time for ourselves after 8:30, where we're not just going, please don't look at me, don't talk to me, I don't want to be around you, I've got to have some time. You know, your marriage is better, your everything's better. But she did it by spending money, not saving it, while she was starting a new business. Now that she's done that, because she understood the value of reinvesting her time and making more money, she could make more money. And then she hired 1.5 people, then 2.5 people, then she brought on lawyers, that sort of thing. And you always make money by leveraging other people. I think everybody understands that at a basic level. So I just loved it, but she had to have systems, Lisa. She had to have systems. She had to be disciplined. When something was on her calendar, it had to work. And that meant mental health. It meant self-care. It meant taking a walk with her husband so they stayed connected and weren't just frenetically, you know, just texting each other about what's going on, like 2 business partners, you know, coordinating logistics of childcare. And that's what a lot of marriages devolve into. And that's how people don't grow together. And so after the children leave the home, you're not looking at each other like, who the hell are you and why am I stuck with you? You know, so I love all of that. Lori, what are you thinking about what Lisa says about self-care, and what are your thoughts on how you do it?
Well, I think along with Kimmy, I love the systems idea, which I always start off with one, but then of course life is going to, you know, throw you a curveball. And if you don't react right away with a new system, you're going to get behind.
Yeah.
And
your system has to be adaptable. It has to be malleable.
Yes. But then make time to get back onto that system. So that kind of hit home with me. And that's where I'm at now. I've got to reevaluate my system. So I love all of that. And I did start investing in the food delivery services and things like that. And I'm a single mom of 3 boys. I don't have a lot of money to throw around at all. They eat me out of house and home. And so that was something where at first I was like, you know, you pay a little bit more and this and that. I could save money if I went by myself, but now it's such a stress reliever to just go ahead and have them delivered as soon as I get home, and then I can make supper right away. Yeah. You know, and so using the tools that are out there, and we have more tools available now than we've ever had, I think. So
someone told me today, someone mentioned to me today that since they started going with Shipt or whatever, you know, whoever brings your groceries to you, they said they spend less money than when they just meander.
Yes.
this looks good. I'll put it in the cart. This looks good. I'll put it in. Like at my house, I've got so much stuff in the freezer. I will never cook because I was in a mood
Yep.
at the grocery store and I thought, oh, I will make this. No, you will not make this, and you just wasted food.
Well, it's actually made me be a lot more disciplined actually with my grocery buying.
Yeah, I think so. And it also has an accountability factor. You see what you're actually eating for the money. You
Yep.
know, it's I think COVID has kind of made everything just tighten up a little bit. Just like from, what is that maybe? Tighten up. So let's see, Lisa, back to you. You talked about systems. You talked about how you do it. What do you learn whenever you meet with new clients and you hear their challenges and maybe they're not as regimented as you are? What are little tidbits you give them about self-care, and including just the fact that don't feel guilty about wanting self-care? How about that? Let's start with the guilt. You know, I love that you do the boudoir photos. I talked about this on the first episode. You know, I always wanted to do these photos, tasteful nudes, and just for me, I don't want to do them for anybody else. I just thought I want to do this before I can't. You know, and so tell me about that. Tell me about the women who come to you just because they want to get made up pretty for an anniversary or a birthday, or they want to do boudoir. Tell me about it.
You know, that's such an interesting topic because women do have like an innate guilt about taking care of ourselves. And I told Carrie, I just recently read this new book, and I'm always reading, which again, you can put that into a system too. So if you don't have time to read, that can be placed into a system. How can I read? I do an audiobook every time I'm driving. I get through at least a book every other week. And you can do the same thing just by putting some systems in place. But anyway, I just finished this book, and it's so hard for me not to curse on the show. It's called.
We swear. We feel empowered to swear.
So it was called Lucky Rich Bitch, and it was about how, you know, successful women who attain to more and who you know, are wealthy or put things in place to protect themselves, like let's say a rock star, and they travel a lot, and when they come to a place, they say, I want 6 waters, 3 cooled, 3 lukewarm, and I want the whole room lined in white linens, and I'd like the temperature exactly this temperature, right? And how culturally we go, oh, she's a prima donna. Right. And then, but how we should be seeing is she's making sure that measures are in place that protect her sanity because she works really hard, she travels a lot, and she wants to put on the best show for her audience. Men are never perceived that way. Never. We are perceived that way, right? Because we're women. And so anyway, one of the things she talked about in that is that men don't feel guilty about putting those things in place. No. And women
feel entitled to it.
Yeah. So anyway, so I do talk to women a lot about that because I see a lot of women naked in our, you know, we spray tan, we do boudoir, you know, we see a lot of body parts. We hear a lot of that negative talk. And so it is a time for us to have that conversation with people. And that's where I feel like I've found my passion with being able to coach people through something nutritional too, but also image related. Because I can say, you ask those questions, well, why do you feel that? Girl, you don't need to feel. And like the mom that was just sitting in my chair who's got her first baby and she's like struggling with postpartum, and she sat here and we just had a kind of bitch session. I was like, she's like, oh, I feel so bad about even bitching. I'm like, what? I'm like, I said, bitch at me. It's cool. You know, we're good. Because I think we even feel bad about getting it out. You know what I mean? We feel bad about even venting or saying.
It's the most powerful thing. Just getting it outside of yourself is so powerful.
Yeah. So we've got to let go of that. And even what you just talked about with the mom that put those things in place where she was buying her time back, men, again, they don't have a problem with that. They do it easily and naturally. They're like, oh, I'm going to the gym. Bye. You know, I mean, whereas we're like, oh, well, if I go to the gym, that means he has to watch the kids and who's going to cook dinner and who's going to get the meat out of the fridge.
Let me make everything align.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and 1 hour workout.
Yeah. And so but that's a process, I think, for us. I do believe that God designed us all differently, and that's how we're innately wired, but we have to kind of grow to get over it. Or I'm like, wait a minute, if he's in the gym nursery, he's having a good time. You know what? I don't need to feel guilty about this at all. He's playing with his friends. He's taken care of. And if my kids starve a whole weekend because they're home with somebody, you know, they're not going to starve. They're going to be fine. So I have to really like get over a lot of that. And I think that you're right. It's innately difficult for us, but we don't want to pamper ourselves, you know, but I feel like do it, girl, do it, girl. Whatever it is that makes you feel just a little bit better about yourself, like even on a daily basis, put on the lipstick, wear the good, you know, the cute, the expensive perfume that you've got, whatever it is that you can do to kind of make yourself elevate how you feel about yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a huge fan. But then also, again, I always get back to asking questions. I'm always like, well, what are you doing? How could we tweak this? How could we tweak that? Because when I hear women say I don't have time for what it should they want to prioritize, that's a trigger for me to go, okay, well, let's look at that. You know, what time do you get up? You know, could you do this? Could you do that? Could you put this system in place? Because it's, again, it always falls back to what could we put in place to help that?
Yeah, it's not, I don't have time. It's I'm not making this a priority.
Right. Or asking for the help that you need. You know, that's another thing I didn't mention, just asking for the help you need, accepting help. I've always been very type A. I have to do it all myself. It's up to me. And I have had to grow out of that as well and go, you know what? I can't do this alone. I've got to have an assistant and a housekeeper, and I've got to start asking my husband to do stuff because, you know, they don't think to do it on their own. You have to be like, you need to blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, you know, you have to ask for that help. And then you have to be able to say no and then not be attached to the outcome. That's been a big growth thing for me in my self-care journey, is not being so attached to how people feel about my lack of not going to something, not doing something, not participating in something, not donating to something. It's like, I'd be like, oh, well, they're going to be, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not attached to how they respond.
Right. Or it's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility. That happens to me a lot. I get a lot of flattery. Does everybody know the definition of flattery? It's insincere praise. Not sincere. So I get a lot of awards that come with the opportunity to sponsor the event.
Oh,
so you have to check your ego.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to check the attention that you get, because a lot of us women are getting attention for the first time. I was always raised to believe that a woman was a support system for, you know, the man she was lucky enough to snag. So I think it's interesting that you say that. And it's funny because I don't like to get down on men, because we need them. We need alliances in this world, and they have the power. So I don't see any intellectual advantage to alienated people with power. But they want to help. They want to understand. They want to do more than they are doing. I don't think most of them, they are obtuse to a large degree, in my opinion, in my experience, but I don't think they want to be. So sometimes, like you said, asking for help, that means telling your husband, I really need you to do this, please.
Yep.
And you're sitting there going, oh, I shouldn't do it. I should be able to do everything. And then you realize you ask them and they go, oh, sure, I'll do it.
That's right. They want to help.
Needed a damn ask.
They just can't read the minds and
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're sitting there going, I guess everything's okay. I'm not hearing you. I guess everything's good.
Yeah.
You know, nothing blew up today. I guess today's fine.
Yep.
And so you come up to them and go, you know what? I'm about to put my head in the oven unless you take care of this little monster you and I both made for 2 hours, you know, on a Friday afternoon, so I get a massage. And they're not looking for that. But when you say it, they're like, I had no idea it was at this level. I would be glad, you know, to take my son for a walk or teach him, you know, how to throw a ball or whatever men and boys do. I don't know.
Do you think though that causes us as women to feel vulnerable, right? And
you're raised to be vulnerable. You're raised to believe. I believe this. It's in my book that I swear to God is coming out. No, I'm so lazy. I get overwhelmed by it. But anyway, you're told that your support system, you're supposed to take care of all these other things and that you're not as important. And you're told to value the person who pays the bills. You know, and that's usually the man. He got there first. He and his buddies help each other advance. I mean, getting there first has a tremendous advantage. And so that's kind of the man thing. And then slowly women have kind of come up, and then all of a sudden within the last, I think, 4 years, they went, bam, we're here. We're in charge. You need to change, get it together, because we're doing all these things. We're kicking ass. We're taking names. We're starting companies. We're employing people. And the men are going, I think this sounds good, but I'm feeling weird about it. But then they go back to whatever the hell they were doing, because they're not, in my opinion, very deep thinkers. They don't dwell on things. They don't ruminate on things like we do. But there's been a power imbalance that I have seen, that I have appreciated, and I honestly believe in the last 4, 5, 6 years. And so when women have more power, you know, follows money. I don't care what relationship you're in. I believe that. And so whenever women are bringing in the money, that changes the power differential in the home. And the woman then gets to make some decisions that she otherwise would have deferred to or not, try to participate in. And I see a lot of women coming in going, listen, you're going to have to deal with these kids because I'm going to be unavailable from Thursday through Monday. I got a thing. If you need something from me, let me know. But can you imagine that?
Wow.
A man will do that to you any day. I got a business trip. Can you no, they would do this. Not only am I not available Thursday through Monday because I got a thing, I need you to pack for me. I need you to get my dry cleaning. I need you to, make sure my secretary's birthday present gets delivered on time. And you're like, I haven't had a secretary in 20 years. What the hell is that? I mean, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. But I think we're going through such a sea change. This is my opinion. Lisa, do you see it? Carrie, Lori, I don't know if Kimmy left, but anyway, do you see it? Do you see a big change in that sort of distribution of responsibilities, power? What are you thinking?
Lisa, you go first because you were talking about how Stafford travels all throughout Florida and how you have to balance
Right.
opening a brick and mortar business.
Yeah, I think that's been a huge shift for us. And everything that Dana said is true in that I've seen that because also when I lost my business, and you lost your power, you lost your voice, and then it depends on how you arrange the finances in your home too, because so it gets really complicated.
That is sticky.
It is a sticky situation, but I have seen where my husband wants to grow in this. And so that's been really great and promising because, at first you're right. Innately men just are like, they don't know what to do. You know what I mean? They don't understand that it's not just one thing. It's like pack the lunches, but pack it times 4. For instance, I asked my husband once to take the kids to school and I had 4, we have 4 kids. So it was like, I took one and then I took the other and then I'd come home and get another and then I take the little one and he had to go with us for all of them. So it was all these drop-offs morning and night.
Mine.
Yeah. Plus the work, they have sports. So I'm constantly like all over town and he took the kids and he was like, man, God, the traffic's just terrible. And I was like, I went off on him because I was like, yeah, it is. Every morning I sit in it.
Every single day.
Every morning, and he was like, whoa, where did that come from? It's like this attitude. And I'm like, because they're just sometimes it's so out of touch. And they left their lunches. And I made your breakfast and left it on the counter. And I folded laundry. I've done 5,000 things before, anybody else in the house even wakes up. And so I've had to be better. Like, that's why I said vulnerability, because for me, my nature is not to ask for help.
Yeah.
And so it's very vulnerable for me to say, I need you to do this. Yeah. Because men don't have to really ask the other way because we do it innately. We're going to take care of everything innately if the laundry.
And it's always worked that way for them. Why would they think it's different now? It's always been this way. And it's not, and I don't think it comes from a place of malice or whatever. It's privilege. I mean, that literally is just literally.
It just gets done. They're like, everything in the house just gets done. I'm like, how do you think it just magically, like your mouthwash just magically appears and the toothbrush magically appears? Everything just magically appears in the house because there's somebody who's always got everything up here and is taking care of it. So I've had to become a different person too. And I'm vulnerable enough to go, I can't do all of this. I need you to do this, this, and this. And my husband's great because he does respond and he's had to change over the years because not only did he go from being a bachelor and all, they have to go through this progression where they grow up. But also if you want a strong, independent woman who pays half the bills in your home, you got to do half the work in the home.
100%.
And so that's something that we've had to shift to too. And he's responded well. He's in there, even though it's not done the way I would like it to do it. I need to do a TikTok on it, Carrie. I swear to goodness, I'm going to do a TikTok on my husband loading the dishwasher. But I can't say anything. I just got to let him load the dishes because it's not the way I want it. Yeah, but hey, it's done. That's right. Better done than perfect and better done than my way. So I'm grateful that he has come along, and thankfully his mom is the CEO of his company. He's used to strong women.
Love it.
He's not intimidated by that. But I totally hear what you're saying, that you have to have those conversations and they have to grow in this area because otherwise they'll just sit back and be like, oh, it's all done. Dinner's done. My mouthwash is.
But I love what you're saying about you growing too, because I have the same thing. I don't like to ask for help. I don't even like to ask my own paralegals to do work for me. I'm just
I
like,
know.
I know.
you know what I mean? And like Dana's really big on me about not apologizing because I'll apologize for apologizing. You know, so I think a lot
Well,
of this here that we're talking about and asking for help is really growing ourselves too and getting comfortable. Like you said, I really love your point earlier when you said, don't worry about what the response is, because oftentimes I'm like, oh man, they're going to think I'm a huge bitch. So I'm not going to get on them about that. I'm not going to ask about this, but you can't worry about that.
That's right.
Tied up inside, you know, and then that's ruining your self-care.
it is. And you know what? I want to encourage those of you raising boys to do this more than anybody. I just feel this way, and it's personal, but I feel like I'm on a journey with my daughter. I will be teaching her things her whole life.
Yeah.
But I think when you have a boy, sometimes you have limited time with him. And so how you model relationship dynamics in front of them is going to be probably more impactful potentially, because they are not going to be as accessible to you as they take a wife and make a family or just leave and just do what boys do. So I really appreciate all of you, you know, Lori, Carrie, Kimmy, and of course, Lisa, you have boys. It's important. It's important because they need to see it and not just hear it. You know, you can preach all day long, but if somebody doesn't walk their talk, they don't hold the weight. I want to, first of all, say thank you, Lisa, again. Thank you for Carrie, Kimmy, Lori. Thank you for making the time. Rose couldn't be with us today. She's working. She's in a deposition. So thank you for being here, number one. And number two, thank you for making this a priority and not making us feel guilty about the fact that we need to take care of ourselves, because the world sucks sometimes and we need a little hug and we need self-love. I love that. I want to go around just before we conclude, because I could do this all day. I could have this conversation all day.
Yeah.
So I want to go around just before we conclude and just say, do you have any final thoughts? And I want to end, of course, with Lisa, our fantastic guest. You are an inspiration lady. You're an entrepreneur, you're a job creator, you're an image maker. And when I talk about image, maybe you might want to say about this, something more about this, Lisa, but it's your brand. You know, I take my brand very seriously. You know, I'm a strong woman, and I want to lead women, and I want to empower men to empower women. I'm very, you know, religious about my brand. And so image by Lisa, all that you do, you help so many people. But let's go around for a final thought of the day from Carrie. Let's go with you first.
I have two things. Going to the image thing, I think so much of your brand, Dana, and Lisa's brand with Image by Lisa actually comes from within. It's not just how gorgeous you two are on the outside, and I truly mean that. It's kind of embarrassing to be on this call with you guys, but it's really—
Yeah, that's not me. This is some other people who went to school.
really, your image is really coming from the inside out, and I think it's important that people understand that about you guys. It's not just about what's on the surface, it's what's emanating from the inside out with you guys. That's where your image is coming from. But the other thing is, with respect to self-care, I read something really interesting on it, and that's that getting rid of toxic relationships is also incredibly important to self-care, be it, you know, an abusive husband or a parent, or even, you know, a sibling or a friend. You know, sometimes you, and Lisa and I were talking about this earlier this week, sometimes you just have to say goodbye to toxic friendships, and you have to stay with that.
Right.
That is the ultimate self-care. That is the ultimate self-love, is to say, I'm not available for abuse.
And most of the time the hardest, but most important.
Yeah.
Lori, what are your thoughts wrapping up today?
So the very first thing I'm going to do is actually look at restructuring my day, because I have just been thrown around, it feels like, with kids and work and so much. And I'm trying to fit in my own self-care, and I've got goals that I want to do for fitness. And I'm a huge runner. I used to be a competitive runner, and I love it. I haven't been doing that in so long, and I miss it. But I'm like, but at the end of the day, I've still got to cook and clean and this and that. So I'm going to go and restructure my day a little bit and see if I can get a new system.
Yeah. Maybe find a way to incorporate that with your boys. Just say, you know what, you're getting older. You're going to need to live by yourself. Why don't you plan a meal?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And my boys are amazing. They love to take care of me, and they know how to cook eggs.
Love their mamas.
Different things like that. So they're really, really good boys.
Good.
But yeah, this was such a great combo, and it's really kind of, I'm kind of excited now to go home and reevaluate.
Yeah. No, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. And that's why I'm glad that we make time for this. Even if you don't make time, if you just tune into the EmPower Hour, it's like having a drink with a girlfriend. That's what we're hoping it'll be. You know, I'm hoping this whole, you know, EmPower Hour, EmPower Plant by Facing Brooks, I hope it turns into self-care. So,
oh, I have one more thing.
Go ahead, Lisa. No,
Don't
Lori,
mind.
please.
I am probably going to book myself a whole experience with Lisa and the photo, because I've never considered, I'm good behind the camera, and it'll be just for me. But, you know, I think it'll be kind of a boost to go have that experience. So I think I'm going to do that for myself at some point.
That's one of the reasons I invited you to be on our panel. I don't think you belong behind the camera only.
Yes, well, I appreciate it. It feels good.
Yeah, I love it. Lisa, what would you like to wrap up with today?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you, and you can come for a makeup lesson too, girls. It's always fun to update your look. Always be growing.
I am.
But I'll tell you, you know, anytime I've had a turning point in my life, it's when I sat back and really reevaluated, because as I said on that recent podcast, I said, sometimes all the little things in life, you think, oh, this isn't a big deal. Oh, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. All the little not big deals add up to a really big deal.
Yeah. They can add up to a heart attack, frankly.
That's right. That's when you end up stressed, you know, so a heart attack, or your health is at risk, and we pay now or pay later, right? When it comes to health, that's why it's so important now. Right. But we don't want it to get to that place where it's like, oh shit, you know? And so I think stepping back, like Lori said, and reevaluating and really doing a brain dump. Even recently, I just did that with regards to my finances. You know, I'm really good with sales. I'm a great marketer, but I'm not that, when you ask me what my P&Ls are, I'm like, I don't know, you know? So I had to reevaluate that and go, okay, let's brain dump and get a plan together. And I had to sometimes in my life list out everything that's causing me issues, that's stressing me out, that's draining my battery, and go, okay, how am I going to address each one of these things? And I think sometimes you just got to get it on paper. You know, and then put a plan in place, like what Lori said. And if it means getting up earlier, if it means downloading some new apps, putting some new systems in place, offloading, delegating, ordering, you know, services, whatever you can do so that you can take that time for you, it's always worth it.
You know, I was a shrink before I was a lawyer. And one of the things I learned in training to do that and practicing in it was, if you can just give people a plan, you know, if people can just have a plan, a way through the darkness. I think that's why they call it shrink. You know, I think you just take a big problem and you just break it down and you shrink it and turn it into a plan. And then once it's a plan, it can almost become a checklist. You can check it off. And there's this enormous power that comes from just checking something off. I was responsible for that and I've done it and it's been done well, or I've delegated, whatever, just get it off the list. So it almost sounds, the systematizing, it almost sounds like at the most basic level, it's about planning. It's about, you know, anybody can follow a map or a path out of anything. But if you just stick me in the woods and say, have at it, I'm going to get overwhelmed. I'm not going to feel competent. Right. But if someone said, here's a map, here are your resources, find your way out, I'd be like, I got this. So I like that. To me, the systematizing, that's a big thing. The breaking it down, the planning. This is my meal plan for the week. These are where these children have to be. This is my designated time. And I'm like you, Lisa, I have a trainer and I didn't have one for years. I only have one now because I know I need to work out. I would never get around to it and not make it a priority, but I'm paying this man so much damn money. I ain't gonna miss that appointment. Okay?
That's right.
Whatever it takes, whatever your threshold of compliance needs to be, have it. But I love it. I love everything that you shared with us today. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you, Kimmy. She had to leave us. And I know Rose will get a lot out of us. And she will, like you, if you want to watch this later on our YouTube channel, Facing Brooks. This is the EmPower Hour by the EmPower Plant. So thank you again. We will talk again on Monday about what our next topics will be. We want to hear from you. What do you want to hear about? What guests would you promote? So we just want to make everybody have a great and empowered week and weekend. So thank you for joining us again today.
Thank you.
And remember to go like Lisa at Image by Lisa on
like Lisa at Image by Lisa. Follow her on all the social media. She's everything, and it's fun. I love following her. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Bye. See you soon.